There are two models for how most of us interact with the physical environment around us: ownership and stewardship. Ownership is easier for us to understand since it's clear what we own and what we don't own, what we are responsible for and what we're not. Stewardship is trickier. There are less examples in our everyday lives, but in a world of ownership, I believe that there's a great opportunity for stewardship. In environmental conservation and sustainable development, stewardship can be an unobtainable goal far off on the horizon that we work towards but never reach. And defining clear moments of success is a challenge because we might not recognize them up close. We're so used to chasing the horizon. But what if we could define success? What if we could incorporate successful stewardship of the physical world into our everyday lives? What would that look like? What would we look like if we thought stewardship was practical, casual, and effortless? I think a lot about the boundary between personal and public space and where it is. More importantly, what would the world look like if we started to manipulate those boundaries? What would happen? What if we started to push our personal space boundaries out further and further and further, overlapping public space? Now, take a moment and identify for yourself where your own boundary lies between your personal space and public space. It may be your bedroom door, your front door, your yard or garden touching the sidewalk. Now, if you're having trouble locating this boundary, think about what would embarrass you if someone you knew saw that it fell below your standards. Then it becomes very clear what you see as your personal domain, what reflects or represents you to the outside world. For example, let's say your boundary lies at your front door. If your family or friends saw that your home is unclean, messy, unappealing, then you'd likely be embarrassed, self-conscious, uncomfortable with them seeing it. This is because since you see everything behind your front door as part of your domain, any negative impressions then reflect back directly on you. By contrast, the hallway or sidewalk outside your front door could be covered with litter or in disrepair, but this public space would likely not cause you embarrassment as it is not part of your personal domain. It's probably not something you love observing, but it doesn't reflect on you personally. But what if it did? What if we saw our hallways, our sidewalks as part of our own personal domain, our personal responsibility? What if we kept pushing that boundary out further and further and further, embracing more and more into our personal domain, our personal responsibility? What if we extended the boundary to include the sidewalk? What if we then included the rain gutter next to the sidewalk? What if we included the park down the street? What if we started to include more and more and more that we saw as part of our personal domain, part of our personal responsibility, as something that reflected on us as individuals, very personally? With that in mind, what would result from manipulating this boundary? What would the world look like if we all kept pushing our personal space boundaries out to everywhere we went? Everywhere we travel, everywhere we visit, we could see the public spaces around us as part of our personal responsibility. What would the world look like if that happened? Maybe there would be a lot less litter. Maybe we'd throw a lot less trash away. Maybe our personal relationships with each other would be different. Maybe there would be less corruption regarding local governments, utilities, and waste management systems. If we saw storm drains in our water supply as our personal domain, maybe our water would be clean. Maybe we wouldn't pour toxic chemicals or flush pharmaceuticals. It's interesting, right? It's interesting to see what the world would look like if we all went home tonight, and on the way home, we started to see the public spaces around us as part of our home. Thank you.